So you clicked on this video because you just got your DJI Mini 3 Pro and you're wondering what to do next. Well, look no further. In this video, I'm going to share with you the best DJI Mini 3 Pro tips for an absolute beginner. Now, if you're wondering why you should listen to me, my name is Dane Visuals and I'm a content creator from Jamaica who's been flying drones for over 6 years. So trust me, I know a thing or two. So without further ado, let's begin. So the tip number 1 is to get used to shooting in manual mode. Now I know as an absolute beginner, you're going to want to shoot auto everything, and that's fine. When you're just getting started, there's no problem with shooting everything in auto, but as you go on further and further, you're going to want to get experience shooting manual. When you shoot in manual, you're going to have a lot more controls, you're going to be able to adjust things accordingly, and you're not going to rely on your drone's camera to decide what is the important part of your shot to be exposed for or to be colored properly. It's going to give you a lot more control, and it's going to make you go from being, a beginner pilot or a beginner drone flyer to someone that looks like a professional, and people will be able to trust in your abilities to deliver high quality content. So definitely get used to flying in manual mode. Tip number 2 is turn on overexposure warning. So what overexposure warning is that your drone is going to show you on your controller or on your phone what is being overexposed. The reason why that is important because you want to know, especially if you're going to color grade your footage, what is properly exposed and what is being clipped. So when you turn on overexposure warning, you're going to see some lines going across on the things. They're called zebra lines, and it basically shows you what is overexposed. With the DJI Mini 3 Pro, you don't want to clip your highlights too much, so you only want to have a little bit of lines on the brightest parts of your image. So if you notice that a lot of your image has a lot of lines going across, that means it's an overexposed image. So what you want to do is to keep only the brightest part with a few lines going across. That's going to help you to keep your shot properly exposed, especially if you're shooting in DCINELIKE, where it's hard to see how things truly look. So turn on that warning so you can know, okay, my shot is properly exposed and I'm not missing any details in my highlights. Trust me, it's going to save you a lot of time. Number 3 is to get ND filters. Now, ND filters are basically sunglasses for your drone's lens. And what that is going to do is going to prevent your drone from also clipping the details in the highlights. What happens is because you're flying your drone so high up in the air, it's easy for things to become overexposed, especially if you want to dial down your shutter. So the best thing to do is to get an ND filter so you're able to adjust your shutter without having any problems with your exposure. So as a rule of thumb, we like to use double our frame rate for our shutter angle, and that is called the 180-degree rule. And all that really does is to ensure that your camera is giving a smooth motion blur, the one that we're used to seeing normally. So generally speaking, just try to keep your shutter as double your frame rate. So if you're shooting 24 frames per second, you want your shutter to be 50. If you're shooting 60 frames per second, you want your shutter to be 120 or 125 if your drone allows for that. Basically, all you have to do is just use an ND filter if you're trying to expose properly. Because if you're shooting at a 50 shutter speed, on a bright sunny day, it's going to be extremely overexposed. Tip number 4 is to set your white balance. Now it's going to be super important that whenever you're shooting to ensure that you're using the right white balance. All white balance is you telling the camera that the whites in the image are going to look white and the blacks are going to look black. That is going to help to keep colors at their true look. So once your white is adjusted for appropriately, everything is going to look normal. Now remember, if you're going to go in and color grade, you can always change colors to look however that you want them to look. But as a rule of thumb, you want to start off with things looking properly. So try to get the correct white balance at first, and then you can go in and change and stylize things to how you want them to look. But just remember that correct white balance is very important, especially in the beginning. Afterwards, once you've done your basic adjustments in your color grade, then you can go in and start changing things to how you want them to look. Adding your style, making colors look all different, make them pop, anything you like, but just get the right white balance. Tip number 5 is to adjust your gimbal settings. Now the gimbal settings is going to be very important to get those smooth cinematic shots. Reason being, if your gimbal is moving way too fast, it's not going to look cinematic. You want to dial down your gimbal settings accordingly to how you like to fly. You're going to have different settings for different persons, so it really depends on how heavy your hand is and how fast they're flying. I like to use slower gimbal settings because that allows me to do, slow, cinematic, steady, controlled movements. So play around with this and see what works for you. Gimbal pitch and gimbal smoothness is going to help you to get those different levels of smooth cinematic shots. I'll leave my settings right here and you can try them if you'd like, but let me know what are your settings below in the comments. Also, if you've been enjoying this video so far, feel free to hit that subscribe button below as it helps me to make more videos like this just for you. Tip number 6 is to use up that vertical mode. Now, I cannot stress this enough. The vertical mode on the DJI Mini 3 Pro is absolutely insane. That is one of the main reasons why I got this drone, because trust me, it is amazing to be able to shoot content that is vertical right out of your drone. You don't have to do any extra editing, any extra cropping in. Right out of your drone, it's ready and good to go, and that makes it so much easier to post for Instagram, on YouTube Shorts, whatever you're going on. It just makes stuff a lot more easier and you don't have to worry about crops. So trust me, use up that vertical mode. It's as simple as pressing one button on the drone and it's going to give you true 4K. It's not a cropping 4K, it's not a fake 4K, it's that real 4K. So trust me, try it out and let me know what you think about that. Tip number 7, if you don't have ND filters, try to avoid shooting when it's super bright. Reason being, when it's too bright, it's going to be very hard for you to expose properly without turning your shutter all the way up. So if you can, ideally you want to shoot at maybe sunrise or sunset, or when it's a little bit cloudy outside, so that way you can get your proper exposure without having to turn your shutter all the way up. I mean, if you don't have a choice, you can still do it. It's not a super deal breaker, but if you're a beginner and you're not really sure what you're doing, try to shoot at those times when the sun is a little bit softer. That way you can get some better, smoother shots, especially when it comes to like your colors and your gradation. So yeah, definitely choose cloudy, sunrise or sunset to help you to get those nice cinematic looking shots if you don't have ND filters. Or just generally speaking, because overall, sunset and sunrise is just going to look better naturally. Tip number 8 is to use the guidelines or the frame guide settings on your drone. Now, if you're a photographer, this will be like very straightforward for you. When you use the grid line, it helps you to be able to frame your shot accordingly. So if you want to see what's in focus, you want to see what is on the lines, you want to see what looks symmetrical, basically all grid lines do is help you to frame up your shots. And that is very important because you don't want to just be shooting blindly. So use that to help you compose your shots in a very cinematic looking way, in a way that looks pleasing to your audience. And that's to help you see, okay, is this straight? Is this slant? Is this looking weird on the frame? Use it up as much as possible because even professionals that have been shooting for years still use their grid lines. So trust me, you're going to want to use them. Tip number 9 is to use DCINELIKE. Now, DCINELIKE is a flat picture profile on your DJI Mini 3 Pro, which allows you to go in after you've shot and color grade your image. The reason why you want to use DCINELIKE is because afterwards, it helps you to have more information inside of your image so that you can add your colors in post. Now, if you're not going to be color grading, you do not need to use DCINELIKE, but if you want to go in and add your own style, I'm going to implore you to use DCINELIKE because that is going to help you to get the best possible looking shots and make your things have your own personal style. So remember to try that out whenever you're trying to add a little flair to your stuff. Now, the DJI Mini 3 Pro has around 4 customizable buttons, and you can use that to help you get shortcuts that's going to make it easier for you. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't really customize my buttons. I like them the way they are. On the left customizable button for my drone, it controls the tilt up and the tilt down. So if I want to get the gimbal tilted down, I press the left button at the back and the drone automatically tilts down. And if I want to go to vertical mode, I press the button on the right and the back, and that basically puts my drone into vertical mode. So I have not changed those any at all. It also has a customizable control wheel. So I think you're allowed to use that to control it as well. If I'm not, you can change the control wheels at the back. But again, I leave mine as is. I don't really experiment with it because I like the way they are. But if you have different things that you want to add to yours, feel free to do that if you want it. Tip number 11 is going to be charging options. Now, trust me, if you want to fly your DJI Mini 3 Pro as much as possible, you're going to want to get yourself a fast charger. It's going to help you so much. I'm going to just tell you from now, get the Fly More combo, which is going to give you a charging hub and 2 extra batteries. Get the one that has the bigger batteries that can give you up to 47 minutes. You'll love it. It's going to help you to fly a lot longer. And lastly, get that fast charger from DJI. All those things combined, your drone will be fully charged in maybe like an hour. All 3 batteries can be charged in like an hour, and you'll be able to fly a lot longer than you used to. Before, it would take me like an hour and a half to maybe, or 2 hours to charge my older DJI drone batteries. But with the fast charger and the charging hub now, they can be charged in an hour and you can just go out there and be flying all day. So trust me, get yourself a fast charger, get that Fly More kit with the bigger batteries. You'll be flying very long and you don't have to be worrying about maybe going home or finding somewhere to charge your batteries. Trust me, more batteries, the better. It's gonna be a lot more fun. And yeah, I mean, why did you get a drone and not get a couple of batteries? Like, you don't wanna only have one battery. You wanna have as much as possible to have a great flight time and a flight experience. If you love those tips, the YouTube algorithm says you're gonna love this video right here.